A lot of people who are considering joining the military want to know how much enlisted personnel and military officers get paid. Our pay information is no secret. It is publicly available online and anybody can access it at any time. You do have the opportunity to receive additional entitlements, such as extra money to help pay for food and off-base housing, and you may be able to receive additional bonuses based on your career field or special skills. In this video, I'll go over how you can figure out your basic pay, your entitlements, and some of those bonuses that may be available to you. This video is not branch specific, so it doesn't matter if you are Air Force, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Marines, Space Force, whatever. We all get paid based on the same pay table. So here it is. The amount of basic pay military members make does change a little bit every year based off of that year's National Defense Authorization Act. So since the 2022 National Defense Authorization Act was just released, and it gave military members a 2.7% bump in pay from what we did receive in 2021, the military pay tables have been updated to reflect that new pay increase. This is the 2022 monthly basic pay table released by the Defense Finance and Accounting Services, or DFAS. This is the official pay table that you want to always reference, and I'll leave a link in the description below for where you can find it. As you can see on the left-hand column, pay categories are grouped based on enlisted, warrant officers, and officers, and up top you have the number of years served. So for instance, an E1, so someone who just joined and just shipped out for training and is within their first 4 months of service, they'll make $16.95 per month. But once they hit that 4 months and 1 day mark, they'll bump up to make $18.33.30 per month. Similarly, an E4 who's been in for 4 years, so a senior airman for the Air Force or a specialist for the Army, that E4 makes $27.8670 each month. Or how about let's take a look at an officer, so an O2, a first lieutenant who's been in for 3 years, makes $52.55.10 per month. Naturally, this pay chart reflects your basic pay before state and federal taxes get taken out. But another thing to note about this pay chart, it doesn't matter if you are single or married or have kids. We all get paid basic pay based on our rank and time in service. I mentioned before that you may be able to receive certain entitlements to offset the cost of food and housing. So one of those entitlements is BAS, or Basic Allowance for Subsistence, and the chart for this is also on that DFAS website. And this is going to be a flat rate that we receive no matter where we are. If you're an officer, you'll receive $280.29 each month to help with the cost of food. If you're enlisted, you'll receive $406.98 each month for food. If you're enlisted and you're single, living on base at a location that doesn't have a dining facility or chow hall, then you'll receive $813.96 per month for food. If you're wondering why we receive the same amount of BAS regardless of whether we're overseas or stateside, since you can imagine that if you're overseas and you're going to the local grocery store and you're paying in pounds or euro, you're going to be spending a lot more for food because of the conversion rate. I'm not sure, but my guess is that because the commissary prices overseas and stateside are pretty similar, the expectation is likely that if you're overseas, you should be buying the bulk of your groceries from the commissary. Unless, of course, you're buying something super specific and local to your host nation, such as crumpets. But that's just me guessing. I don't actually know. Now, BAH. Every branch of the military is going to have its own rules about who has to live on base and for how long. So let's say, for instance, you are enlisted and you're single and you're living in the dorms or in the barracks. You're not going to be entitled to extra money for housing. You're not going to be entitled to that BAH because your housing is being provided for free. But if you live off base, then you will be entitled to BAH, or Basic Allowance for Housing, every month. And the amount that you receive for BAH is based on your duty location, your rank, and whether or not you have dependents, so a spouse or children. To figure out the amount that you'll receive for BAH, you'll want to use the BAH calculator on the Defense Travel Management Office's website. I'll leave a link for that in the description box below too. DTMO has your official BAH rates. So just like you want to go to DFAS website for your basic pay chart, you're going to want to go to the DTMO website for your BAH rates. So real quick, I'm going to show you how to calculate your BAH. Let's imagine that you're coming in as a new officer, so a butter bar second lieutenant, and your first duty station is Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. The zip code for Eglin is 32542, and you're an O1. So if you're single, you don't have dependents, in addition to your base pay, you'll receive $19.56 per month to pay for your rent off base. If you do have dependents, so you're married or you have a kid, you'll receive $19.86 per month for your off-base rent. What about if you're stationed overseas? What you will receive is OHA, or an overseas housing allowance, rather than BAH. So you click this link here on the left sidebar, go to OHA calculator, enter the country where you serve, and again, your rank. So let's say you're going to Ramstein Air Base in Germany. You're an O1. If you have dependents, you'll receive about $14.95 for off-base rent and about $7.49 for utilities. If you're single and you don't have dependents, you'll get about $13.45 per month for rent and $5.61 for utilities. One important distinction between OHA for overseas and BAH for stateside is that BAH is a flat rate entitlement. So if your rent costs less than what you are being paid in BAH, you can keep that extra money. It's intended to go towards your utilities. For OHA, the housing office is going to get a copy of your lease. So they're going to see how much you are paying each month in rent. And if your rent costs less than what you are entitled to receive in OHA, then you are only going to get enough to cover the amount of your rent. You are not going to be able to keep that extra money. Also, if you're living overseas, you'll receive COLA, or a cost of living allowance. And this is additional pay that helps offset the cost of living adjustment. Some locations stateside also offer COLA, but not all. So to find out what you'll receive for COLA if you're living overseas, on the left sidebar, click Overseas Cost of Living Allowance, then Overseas COLA Calculator. Again, we're in Ramstein, Germany. Let's say we're a brand new E1, no dependents, and living in the barracks or dorms. You'll get an additional $9.78 per day, or $146.79 per month, just for being there. Let's say we're an O1, not living in the barracks, so living off base, and still we don't have any dependents. You'll be making an additional $18.46 per day, which comes out to $277 per month. Again, just for being there. If you want to find out how you'll receive COLA at your stateside base, click CONUS COLA on the left sidebar, then CONUS COLA Calculator, put in the zip code for your installation and all of your information, and it'll populate your additional COLA if you're entitled to any. So let's see how this all plays out. Let's take a newly enlisted airman coming into his first duty station at Eglin Air Force Base, Florida, and see how his pay compares to a newly enlisted airman coming into his first duty station at Ramstein Air Base in Germany. For the sake of ease, let's just imagine that they are both single, so no dependents, and they are both living on base. Basic pay is going to be the same for them both. They've both finished training, so let's make them E2s, and they've both been in for less than 2 years. So basic pay is going to be $20.54.70. They both receive BAS for food, which is an additional $406.49 per month. Neither receives BAH because they both live on base, but the troop in Germany will receive COLA, which is an additional $146.79 per month. Eglin, unfortunately, is not a location that receives stateside COLA. So in total, just with the entitlements alone, they're both making about a quarter more than their basic pay. But we end up with the Eglin E2 making $2,461.68 per month, and the Ramstein E2 making $2,608.47 per month. And we can do the exact same thing for an officer. So let's take a newly commissioned O1 coming in at Eglin Air Force Base and compare his pay to a newly commissioned O1 coming in at Ramstein Air Base. Again, for the sake of ease, let's say that they are both single, so no dependents, but this time they are living off base. So just as with the enlisted troops in the previous hypo, they've both finished training, but they've been in for less than 2 years. Their basic pay will be the same, which is $3,477.30 per month. For BAS, they'll receive $280.29. For BAH, the Eglin O1 will get $14.16 each month, and for OHA, the Ramstein O1 will make $13.45.45 for rent and $561.47 for utilities. For COLA, the Ramstein O1 makes $277 per month. Totals, just in entitlements alone, the Eglin O1 is bringing in $1696.29 extra each month, and the Ramstein O1 is making $2464.21 extra. But altogether, the Eglin O1 is making $5173.59 each month, and the Ramstein O1 is making $5941.51. Again, this is all pre-tax. But on that note, if you're deployed, then your pay is tax-free, which becomes huge if you are enlisted and you happen to be deployed when it's time to re-enlist. So you've finished one contracted period of service and now you are signing up to take on another enlistment, so another term of years. Because if you get a bonus for re-enlisting, which you probably do, then that entire bonus is going to be tax-free. Now, if you're an officer and you happen to be deployed when it's time to recommission and you get a recommissioning bonus, then your bonus is going to be capped as an officer, so it still will be taxed. And just with federal tax alone, that tax is about 22%, which I feel like is pretty heavy, but whatever. There are other job-specific and skill-specific bonuses that you can receive, but I'm not going to go too deep into those because that could take a long time. But just to highlight a few key ones: hardship duty pay. This is for folks living overseas at locations where the living conditions are considered a hardship or substantially below those that you would find in the continental US. Hostile fire and imminent danger pay. This is for folks serving in combat zones. Health profession officer bonuses. Some medical professionals will get bonuses to help make up for the fact that they would probably be receiving substantially more money if they were working in the civilian sector doing the same type of job. And similarly, aviation officer incentive pay, which is for pilots to try to incentivize them to stay in the military, when again, they could probably be making substantially more money in the civilian sector. If you want to see the amounts for those bonuses, more info for them is listed on that same DFAS webpage that I've referenced throughout this video and have linked below. So feel free to peruse at your leisure. I do hope this was helpful. If it was, then please let me know by hitting those like and subscribe buttons down below. Doing so is completely free to you, and it does help the YouTube algorithm push this information out so that more people can have access to it. I thank you for being here. I always appreciate your time. Have a wonderful 2022. Cheers.